And we have January 11th today, 2018. We started out at 35 degrees this morning, and now we're down to 18 degrees and getting a little snow. And we're supposed to get down to 6 below zero tonight. So I think it's going to be a good day to do a project indoors. This video is for entertainment purposes only. So now I'm kind of doing a little recap here. I had a major crash with my Phantom 4 Pro. I replaced the upper and lower shell. I replaced the landing gear. I replaced 2 ESC boards. And I had some motors here that I had previously bought, so I thought I'll just throw those on. And I got everything back together thinking everything's going to be good. And I went to do a calibration on the vision system. And I found out the left rear vision system camera is bad. And so now I got to look one up and see if I can find one online and get that coming. I'm really starting to get pretty good at taking this thing apart. Kind of a disappointment, but this is getting personal now. This thing will fly. But I will still put up the video so anybody interested in seeing how an ESC board is replaced can watch that. This video is long. In fact, it's very long. So you might want to skip through some of it. Or if you need something to put you to sleep to take a good nap, this would be perfect for that. I just about had my drone back together when I found out that I had a bad ESC board. And on the Phantom 4 Pro, there's 2 ESC boards. And the one I need to replace is right here. This is part number 13. And this controls 2 motors. There's also part number 12 right here, and this controls 2 motors. I just ordered 2 ESC boards, so I'm going to replace them both. The new boards aren't here yet, but I decided to get a jump on things and start taking the old boards out. I already have the lower shell separated from the upper shell, and I'm going to have to lift this center assembly up here. And to do that, we're going to remove 4 screws, one here, 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 and here. But before I do that, I'm going to break this silicone loose that's holding these antennas in place. And so I'm going to get my little hobbyist tool here with the sharp end on it right here. And I'm just going to work around the silicone. And see if I can't get it cut out. And now we'll do the other side. Yeah, right over here. Okay, I've got that cut out. And now I'm going to take the 4 screws out of the center assembly here, this section right here. What that's going to do is allow me to lift this up and get at the solder joints here. And we have a 2mm screw on that. And I bought this hobbyist Allen wrench set here from 1.5 to 3 millimeters. This is worth its weight in gold. Makes your job much, much easier. And we'll take the second screw out. And last but not least, the fourth screw. It's kind of down there ways with some wires running around it, so it's a little bit harder to see, but okay, now I'm going to get a piece of paper and mark those 4 screws so I know where they go. So basically I just get a post-it note there and write center assembly on it, and then I'll just put it off to the side and put the 4 screws on the piece of paper. That way I know where the screws came out of. And then we'll kind of make sure all these wires are free here as I lift the center assembly up. And as I lift it up, I'm going to make sure that my antennas right here and right here are free of the silicone. This side here is free, and that side there is free. So we're going to lift the center assembly up and stretch my wires out. And now with the center assembly up in the air, I'm just going to stick my cloth underneath to hold it up in the air. Let's see here. And that's going to make it easier to get at the wires to unsolder them. Oops. One thing I gotta do is I need to unhook my GPS wire right here. So I'll push in on the tabs on the side here and just try to wiggle it free. There we go. There, that's going to let it go up a lot higher. And we'll just work the cloth in like so. Now I have the wires propped up so I can unsolder them. And now I got my soldering iron warming up there. I got my wet paper towel there. And I have my rosin core solder here to keep the end of my soldering iron tinned. If you keep the end of your soldering iron tinned, it helps the solder to flow and it helps the solder to warm up. So that kind of molten solder on the end of your tip helps the heat transfer into the joint that you want to unsolder. I don't believe I'll need my solder sucker today. I think I can just heat the joints up and they should come apart. Basically what we're going to be taking apart is we're going to be taking apart 3 motor connections on each side here. And then we have 3 LED connections on each side. And we'll see how hot the soldering iron is by trying to tin it. And it's getting there, but it's not quite hot enough yet. Let's do a little cleaning. And what that does is that kind of rubs the impurities off the soldering iron. And now we'll try again and see if we're hot enough. Well, let's try one. We'll try to see if we can unsolder our joint and see what happens. And there's one black lead on one motor. Well, let's just take you right out of there. And there's the gray lead. And the white lead. And now we're going to re-tin and clean and re-tin. Now, let me see if I can get a hold of the LED wires here. They are small. Okay, we'll try to heat up the gray wire. And there we have it, gray. And we have one set of LED wires unhooked. I am just going to turn this around for my benefit. You always have to watch where your soldering iron is pointing. That can burn you pretty quick. Now, get my black wire moved around. And we got the black wire unsoldered, gray wire, and white wire. And now we're going to go for the LEDs. Okay, now let me get a little bit different hold on this. And I do have the color coding written down. C is dark gray. B is light gray. And A is white. And that's LED number 2. And now we're on the other side of the ESC. I believe this is ESC number 12, considered the left side. And we'll take the black wire off the motor. We got the white wire off. And I'm going to stop and re-tin because I can tell that gray wire didn't want to release. There we go. And there's the gray wire. And we'll go to the LED. C is dark gray. A is white. And B is light gray. And now, last but not least, we have the white motor wire. The gray motor wire. And the black motor wire. And let's see, I'm having a hard time grabbing the LED wire. I think I got it now. Yep, there's the gray wire. Light gray wire. And the white wire. And this is what we have left. I guess I'm going to call this the center assembly. I don't know what the proper name for it is. But we can see one of the ESCs right here. One of the ESCs right here. And this is also the GPS hookup. That connector is right here. And then if we flip it over, we can see down inside there, that's where the battery connects. I'm done soldering, so I've got my soldering iron cooling down now. And so now what I'm going to do is take my pliers and crimp the end of this rosin core solder to keep the rosin in. It's kind of funny, you can see this came from Radio Shack and I paid $5.99 at the time, so my guess is that stuff is pretty old. And I'm going to start unhooking the ESC part number 13. And we can see there's a ribbon cable right here. And the ribbon cable is held on by a bracket with a screw right here. And a small one right there. And then we also have a screw right here holding the board on. Let me go up this way. Right here. So, we'll start by removing one of these screws. Might have to try a different screwdriver on that one. And let me see if I got my magnet here. go. I'll put that on my piece of paper that I have marked ESC 13. And now I'll remove the second screw in the bracket. And then we'll remove the bracket that holds the cable on. Okay, actually, this screw that I removed right there is not holding this bracket on. If we look, the bracket comes around and it's kind of held on right there on the other side. So what I'm going to do is take this small screw and put it back in. There we go. And now I'm going to study this cable and see how this comes out right here. Okay, after looking the cable over, it looks like it just pries up. And sure enough, yep, just pries up like so. You have to be really careful with these cables. The cables are very delicate. Sorry about that if I just moved that off camera. So now what we're going to do, we're going to flip over to the other side. And on the other side we can see we have the one screw here and the one screw here that's going to have to come out to take the whole board out. But right now I'm just going to take the bracket out by loosening up this screw right here. And I'll put it on my ESC 12 that I have made up. And we'll just lift up and pull the bracket off that's holding the cable on, like so. And we'll take our small screwdriver and just pry that cable up. Whoop! Pried it right off. And to show you where that cable came off of, if we go to the top here and look right here, here's the other connector. And that would be held on by the antenna bracket that holds that on. If we go to the other side, we see the other end of the cable right here, and this would be held on by the gimbal bracket. In order not to lose that, I'm just going to take that off, and I am going to put that aside on my ES 13 piece of paper. That way I don't lose it. And we have one more screw here holding this ESC board on, so we'll remove that. Okay, now this board should be loose. We're held in by a couple tabs right here and right here, and I see they got a little silicone on them. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure the board's pried up a little bit and we can see the board move. Let me get you back down, sorry about that. Like so, we see the board moves, and so now I'm just going to give it a little bit of a pry. Nope, it does not want to move. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to come right in here. We can see a little bead of silicone. And I'm going to come in here. We can see a little bead of silicone. I'm going to have to cut a little slot right there without hitting the circuit board. Right here and right here. And to do that, I'm going to have to get my utility knife, which I don't have here, so I'll have to get that. And so I decided to get my leather gloves on. When you cut silicone, it's pretty unpredictable. So we got a pretty good slice right there. And a pretty good slice there. Now let's see if we weakened it up any. We'll try to pry up a little bit. Work it a little bit. Nope. We'll slice it a little bit more. Got to be patient. And I'm not going to be reusing any of these boards, but I don't want to wreck anything else, and you still want to be careful. I can see the silicone giving away. Now I have enough of that cut where I would think that should come. There we go. So we can see in the board there's a couple little tabs there, and then we got our silicone. Okay, so we'll come to the other side here, and let me get my screwdriver. We will take this screw out. And we'll make a couple cuts here. And that one popped up pretty easy. So we can see this is board number 12. That's the part number. And now we come over here and see what we got. We have a ribbon cable right here. So I'm just going to call this GPS battery board on my little sticky note for putting the bracket. Nope, we'll have to try a different screwdriver. And let me pick that up with the magnet. There we go. And we have the bracket that holds it and the screw off. And we'll do the same thing. We'll just pop our little ribbon cable up here by gently prying it. I really like this type of ribbon cable. They come off really nice. And then I can see we have 4 screws holding this bracket in here, or I should say the circuit board. So looking at the board here, we have our GPS antenna coming in, and then we have our 2 compass wires coming in right here. And we have 4 screws holding this board in. So let's see what we can do about taking those out. Okay, it kind of looks like we've got little rubber, maybe vibration washers here on each of these 4 screws. Now this should just pry right out, I believe. I get you back in the camera here. Yes. There we have it. So here's my, let me zoom back out. So here's what I'm calling the center assembly, what's left of it right now. And here's my 2 ESC boards, one right here, and then here is the connector that hooks up to the GPS and your 2 compasses. And on the back side, when you push your battery in, it hooks up to that terminal right there. So that's about as far as I can go today, till I get the new parts in. And after a low yesterday of 20 below zero, today we are up to 8 degrees above zero with some light snow flurries. So things are starting to look up a little bit. And I have the boards I'm going to put in. I bought these off of eBay, and I believe these were taken off of another DJI Phantom 4 Pro. And now we'll get the boards mounted to what I call the center assembly. And each of the screws here has a rubber washer. And this is going to be a little bit tricky. There's one started. Well, let me see if I can use this screwdriver here that's magnetized a little bit. That might help. And it certainly did. And these screws were a little challenging to get in, so I just stopped the camera so I wouldn't bore you while I was putting this back together. And now I'm going to kind of center the board here and tighten the screws. There we go. And now we will reattach the cable here. We'll get it centered where it needs to be and push it down. There we go. I felt it click in there. And then here's the bracket that holds the cable on, so it doesn't fall off during flight or come loose. And we'll get the other screw started. Screws are pretty small, so you got to be patient. And there we have the one there, one screw, and we'll tighten them down. Okay, our bracket's nice and tight. And now we'll get the first ESC board mounted. And I'm going to start by pushing the board right into the tabs here. Okay, and I'm going to start one of the screws. I hope. It's much easier taking the screws out than putting them in, let me tell you. Okay, we have one started, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip this bracket around the cable here. There we go. And then we'll try to start the screw. And that one went a little easier. We'll tighten it down. And then we'll tighten that screw down. And we'll get the other ESC board mounted by Inserting the board into the tabs first. There we go. And then we'll get a screw started. And then of course we're going to have to take our bracket here that holds our cable on. And we'll get that hooked, I hope. There we go. And we'll get the last screw put in. And now we have both screws tight. Now I'm going to push the other end of this cable on here. Right there, and you kind of hear it just click in. And I'll make sure this one is pushed on. And you feel kind of a little snapping action when these cables push into their little sockets. Now we had silicone on the tabs of the ESC boards right here and right here, here and here, but I'm not going to put any on until I'm done soldering and ready to assemble. And now we're getting ready to solder here, so I'm just going to take my towel and set it on the upper shell. And this is just going to lift my solder joints up higher in the air so I can, it'll make it easier to solder. And we'll get the soldering iron warming up. I got my wet paper towel here for cleaning the soldering iron. I have my rosin core solder ready to go. And now I'm going to do a little cleaning and tinning on my soldering iron here. So just wipe it off. And then we'll let it warm back up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to try to solder the first motor on. And I'm going to try to hold this so you can still see it, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. So, be a little patient. We'll see what we can do. And we're going to start with the black wire. And it is being a little elusive, but I think we're going to get it. Okay, I'm going to add a little solder to my iron here. A little too much. Okay. Next comes the gray wire. And we already have a lot of solder on here, so I'm going to try to remove some of it. I think I'm going to let my soldering iron warm up just a little bit. And now let's see if we can't get the gray wire soldered on. There we go. And now we'll bring the white wire around. Oops. Well, let me pick a little solder up on my soldering iron. Okay, there's the white wire. And now we're going to switch to another motor here and try to get the black wire soldered. And there's a black wire. We'll get the gray wire in position. And last but not least, we'll get the white wire soldered on. Well, let's see. I'm going to add a little bit more solder. to that joint. There we go. And we have one more wire, or one more motor, not one more wire. Well, we got one more wire too. And let's see if we can start on this next motor here. We'll start with the white wire. Oop. And there's a white wire. And the gray wire. And I'm going to get a little more solder on my iron. There. And now we're going to try to solder in the last motor. And we'll start with the white wire. And I'm using a rubber band to help me out a little bit. But even then, it's still a little bit of a challenge. See if we can get the gray one to solder. There we go. And then we'll get the black one soldered. And we have the black wire soldered, so that wasn't too bad. And so now the next thing I got to do is solder on the LED wires, and they're going to be soldered onto these three pads here. And I'm not going to do that on camera. They're very small pads, and it's just easier for me to position this thing so I can see it well and get a good angle on it. That actually went better than I thought it was. It was easier to solder those LED wires on. But it was nice because I could move it wherever I needed to see them. And now what I'm going to do is take a little silicone and put it on those tabs on the ESC boards. So we'll just tip it up here. And put a little there. Put a little there on that tab. Flip it around. Yeah, better get a little more. And let's put a little more on. Yeah. And so now I've got it, the center assembly kind of worked into the shell a little bit. And I'm going to grab my GPS wire here. This goes to the GPS sensor. And just bring it up. And we're going to see if I can work it into the connector. There we go. And I could kind of feel it clip in a little bit. Sorry if you missed that. I don't know if I had that on camera or not when I did it, but basically the GPS connector right here and the cable right here, just push them together. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting these wires kind of put in their little trays and their little spots. And I'm going to do that off camera because it's going to be kind of boring. And I've kind of got the wires tucked away, so now I'm going to lower my center assembly back down onto the shell. The upper shell. And now I can start installing the 4 screws that hold the two together. And using my 2mm Allen wrench on a screwdriver handle, I'll start installing 4 of these screws on the center assembly to upper shell. And I'm just going to get them started. And then I'll come back and tighten them all down once they're all started. Yeah, let me move a little wire out of the way here. There we go. And we'll get the last one started. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double check all the way around to make sure everything will pop into place the way it should. And everything's looking good, so I'll just tighten them down. There's just a little piece of silicone left on that one there. And here's the last one we'll get tightened. And as I'm tightening, I'm making sure that this frame here goes into place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, we have these antenna boards right here. You can see it right here. And there is a silicone right here, right in between the board and the upper shell here. So I'm just going to take some silicone and kind of put it right there. And on the other side, right in here. Put a little silicone. I think that just probably keeps this board from moving around. And so we'll just put a little blob on the end of this little hobbyist tool. And we'll spread it between the board and the upper shell. And we'll turn it around. And do the same thing on this side. Get just a little bit more here. There we go. And then I can't see anything that's going to stop us from putting this lower shell onto the top shell. And so we'll just tip it over. And we have a couple of compass wires that are going to have to be attached. So we'll kind of get those in position. And now I'm going to have to try to get the compass wire in the connector, and that's in kind of a tight spot, so I'm going to see if I can use my little needle nose here to help me out. Maybe not, maybe so. There we go. And we got the nice little click there. That's what I like to hear. And we'll go to the other side. And I got a wire that's kind of in my way here, so I'll just push it off to the side for now. And there we go, nice little click there. Now I'll get my wire back in place. And make sure that I'm in, yep. And I'm in there. Alright, now we can continue on putting the shell back together. So basically I'm going to set it down here. Make sure my antenna wires are in a good position, and they are. We also have that one steel tab that likes to hang up, so we'll make sure that thing's out of the way. There we go, right there. Now As I move the shell together, I want to make sure there's no wires that are going to get pinched. And everything is looking good except for the one. I'm going to take a flashlight and I'm going to look down each of the holes that the screws go in and make sure we have no wires. You'll be able to see the wire in front of the hole if it's out of place. Yep, we have one right here. So, what I need to do, the first thing I'm going to do is push this antenna wire in. And to do that, I'm going to have to pry the shell apart a little bit. And take my trusty screwdriver, I hope. There we go. Okay, so my antenna wire is good, and now let me find that right here. Let's see what's happening with this wire here. Just push him off to the side. There. Now let me go back around and make sure there's no more wires here. They're caught. And everything looks good, so now I can start snapping the shell together. And just by squeezing. There we go. And now that I've got the shell squeezed together, I'm going to go through one more time and look for wires. And so we're looking good. Now I know I'm not going to pinch any wires in between the shell, so the upper and lower shell. And now I'm going to put the screws in the lower to upper shell. And they are 2mm, using a 2mm Allen wrench. And I'm just going to start them. And we should have 8 of them. Okay, got all the screws started, so we can start tightening them down. Now when you're done tightening them down, you should see all the gaps that were in between the upper and lower shell disappear. You might still have some on the motor side because we haven't put the screws in the motor yet. But for the most part, it should look like the thing is back together. If you've got a gap in the shell, you probably got a wire pinched in there. And we can see right along here, everything's looking good. We're looking good right in here. Looking good right in here. And we're looking good in there. Alright, things are going good. And now we're going to put the screws in the motors. There's 3 screws per motor. And they're using a 2mm Allen wrench. And now that I have them all started, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. And you got to remember, you're working with plastic here, so tight is tight, and too tight is going to cost you some money. There's the first one. And we'll get it started, but I'm not going to tighten them until I get them all started. There we go. Moving right along. It's kind of nice to get this thing back in the air. It's been a long time and I kind of miss flying it. Although the weather's been way too cold. We've been sub-zero. And every time the weather warms up, it seems like it snows. Okay, we'll do a little tightening here now. And we got the last one. Hey, must have dropped the screw on the floor. I'll be right back. That's exactly what I did. But I found it. And we'll get that started. We got that screw started. I'll tell you what, buying these little hobbyist Allen wrenches on a screwdriver handle is the best thing I ever did. That makes life so much nicer. That tight, and we'll double check this one. Okay, so we have all our motors with screws in them. We're going to take our little adhesive isolation pads and put them in. This is actually the LED right here, so when you see the LEDs flashing, That's where the light is coming from. And we'll get our another pad here. Not quite sure what these pads are for, but I think being as the lenses are clear, I think what they do is prevent you from seeing the screws. So you can't see the screws through the clear lenses. That is just a guess. And now we have our clear lenses here. And I guess the easiest way I found out to do it is, let's see here. There's a little spot right in here, where this little tab here goes into. And probably the easiest way I found is to just hook this tab right in the spot and then push the lens down. It should snap right on. You should feel it snap into place. And here we have the next one. If they don't snap into place, you probably got the tab just a little bit off. And put you on right there. And now we'll pop the last one in. There we go. Now I'm going to flip it over. And we got these little white clear pieces here. And we just flip them or put them right into the little spots here, the little slots. They just push right in. And you just push them in until they're seated here. Right there. Well, let me take a look at that one a little closer. We'll go to this one here. There we go. There. Sorry about that. I just had to push that in so you didn't miss anything. Now we're going to flip her around and we're going to put our antennas. We're going to hook our antennas back up. And according to my little piece of paper here, we have ribbon cable, we have black, we have light gray, we have dark gray, and we have white right there. So being as the white one's hidden way in the corner, I am going to do that one first. And what I'm going to do is just use the end of this tweezers to push this back on the connector. Right there. But okay, I ended up taking that one back off because I wanted to reroute this light gray wire over the top of that. So now we'll try to put that one back on. And there we go. You're going to feel kind of like just a small little click when it gets on there the way it should be. And now we're going to have the dark gray wire. There we go. I felt the little clicking. And we're going to put the light gray wire on. Oops. That one kind of got away. There we go. And last but not least, we're going to put the black on. There. Okay, I got a little extra black wire here, so I'm just going to push that back in. And now we're going to get our bracket out. And this bracket not only holds our ribbon cable right here, but it's going to hold these antenna wires on too. Just there. Okay, I got my black mark that I made. It's kind of a reference right there. And let me get one of these teeny tiny screws. Okay. If I can keep my hands from shaking and get my eyes to focus, we usually have success. Oop. Let's get that started straight. There we go. And so we'll tighten the brackets down. Tighten the screws down, holding the bracket. And now we're going to put the screws back in what I guess I call the tab right here and right here. And these again are pretty small. Actually, they're all pretty small except for the motor screws. And we'll tighten that down. Now I got to find my other one. My other one is missing here. It was hiding under the piece of paper with its name on it. There we go. So basically now all we got to do is put our gimbal on. And now we're going to put the gimbal on and the camera, and I guess I'm going to repeat once again, your camera and gimbal are a very expensive piece. If you break them, it's about $600 for a new one, so you want to be very gentle with it. And so what I'm going to do is push the cable on. We have a ribbon cable. And right there I can feel that the ribbon cable just seated. And there's a bracket to put on to hold the ribbon cable on. And we can see right there, we can see the marks I made, my alignment marks, so I know that's right where it goes. And now we'll have to get a screw to put the thing back together. Maybe a couple of them. I'm actually trying to get a screw in my screwdriver while I'm talking here, so there we have one. And let me see if I can do this. Nope. So here's my new plan. My new plan is to take my little case here and rest the gimbal on that so I can use two hands. There we go. There's one screw started. And two. And there we have them tightened down. So now we're just going to take our camera and gimbal and just slide it around and press it onto the lower shell. We get to the business side of it here. We got to make sure it goes over our sensors. And then just kind of work it around. Should feel it snap right into place. And I'll just take a quick look around and everything is down and in place. So I'm going to start putting the screws on, and these use 1.5 millimeter Allen wrench. And we'll get that one started. And I'm going to go around and start them all. There's 8 of them. I'm not going to tighten them yet until I get them all started. I'll drop that one first. I always wanted to do that. Whoa! I just dropped that one. Okay, so something's going on with the magnetism here. The first one was kind of magnetic, but now that I know that, flip it around here. So basically what I'm going to have here is I've got a new upper and lower shell. I've got 2 new landing gear and 2 new ESC boards. I also had to buy 1 lens. I had to buy 4. They came in packages of 4 because I lost one. And I did lose the battery too. The battery was damaged. So it did cost a little bit of money to get it back and running again. If it does, I guess I still haven't tried it yet. Well, we're going to hope for the best. I'll have to take it out and do a test flight. Okay, let me try this one. Nice. Okay, I'm going to have to shut the camera off and find the one I just dropped. Well, I thought that one was lost in carpet land forever, but I did find it. So see if we can get it started. There we go. And we'll get these tightened up. And now we'll go grab a battery and we can check the fit of the battery in the case here. That has to fit properly so the battery latches. And now we'll give it the first shot of starting up here. Ooh, that sounds good.